Whether you're asleep at a racetrack or awake at home. Reminding you that Wind Tunnel happens at 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Pacific. Give Dave Despain a call or an email. Have a chat live and express your views.
I wonder if that hurts Dave when that bobblehead doll blows up like that. That would hurt me.
No, it's not a voodoo doll. Look at these guys grabbing every moment of sleep they possibly can. It is 20 past 3 in the morning, local time here in Le Mans. Hope you're enjoying the coverage, and problems here for the third place car of Rio Michigami for Jim Gaynor International. Now it's serviced, it's gone. And it has a car zeroing in on the back of it, albeit one lap behind. But the 16 Pescarolo Judd with Eric Comas behind the wheel is firing off very fast lap times in the 3:38 bracket.
And that was not a machine gun being fired out of the back of that. That was the pit lane speed limiter that alternates taking away fuel and spark from different cylinders, and that's what makes it do that.
Race lead pace is 3 minutes 44 seconds, and that Pescarolo's circulating at 3:38 was its last lap. It is flying. Was as low as 16th, it's back up to 4th. The French team are not done with yet. Hey, time to enjoy some sounds of speed. It might be early in the morning, but we're wide awake. Crank it up and enjoy it. The WR returns to pit lane. Once again, it's been a troublesome run so far for both the 23 and 24. This is the 24, the sole remaining car. It is soldiering on. Cal.
Down here with the Aston Martin Group team principal is George Howard Chappell, and George, you're having a great run here tonight. Another sensational battle with the Corvettes. You've got the 58 car out front. The 59 car lost a little bit of time in the early going with Darren's penalties. Have there been any other issues tonight with the race cars?
59's been running really well. One or two small issues with the 58, but the team have done a great job. We've dealt with it for the moment. It all seems to be fine.
A lot of concern before the off today about the heat, the cockpit temperature. I know you've been working hard throughout the week to try and cool the guys down. You had some helmets brought in especially for the event. How have the boys been holding up tonight?
Yeah, they've been doing really well, but I'm not looking forward to tomorrow, you know. When they've already done a lot of hours and it starts getting hot again, it's going to be really tough.
It's a real seesaw battle with you guys. It seems like you might be getting slightly better mileage than the Corvettes, and you're able to double stint. Looks like they're doing single stints tonight, but they're a little faster in the pit lane. They seem to work something out with their fuel flow, and just a couple of seconds, but I'm sure your boys are trying to get the battle to them. And in fact, you lost a go-kart race this week. What was that all about?
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll trade the go-kart race for this one any day.
All right, mate, look forward to the rest of the way.
Cheers, thanks a lot.
George looks a little bit like my favorite Martian there with those antennae sticking up. In the meantime, if you look in the box top right, we have a slow car, and that's number 4, Audi. That's the all-French-driven team. Montani now behind the wheel with some sort of a problem.
Yeah, it looked like Stefan Ortelli is standing by in pit road. Hugh de Schornack, the mastermind behind Team Orica, is the principal of this team. And at the moment, they're 5th overall, but that was very, very costly time-wise. Crawling around the circuit and back up to its pit box, which is right up near pit out. Orica boys standing by. Cal's there. Indeed,
it's going to be Stefan Ortelli jumping in, taking over Montani. And I spoke to Hugh de Schornack just a short while ago. They lost a lot of time having to change that right front upright once again. Similar problem as tearing out the front wishbone on the car. We saw Ortelli go through a gravel trap earlier that caused the first change. And right now the team are unaware as to why there's the need for a second change. They're going to talk to Frank when he gets out of the car. They're unaware that he had an off, but they're going to talk to him, debrief, and try and identify why, which is very unusual on these Audis. They had to change that right front upright again. So Montagny tries to get his teammates strapped in here. The team are having a good look around the rotors, just checking everything out. We're about coming up to the halfway mark here. They're going to try and get a read on the brakes. These Audis should go all the way on one set of brake rotors. A little bit of a delay over there on the right rear. And now Ortelli is struggling with his drinks bottle. He's got a tube right in front of him. He's trying to get that sorted out. Now he fires it up. And he's underway. It cost him just a couple of seconds there to get that sorted out, Lee.
What a great year Stefan Ortelli is having. He won Sebring with David Brabham and Darren Turner in the GT1 class in the Aston Martin. Now he's here in the mighty R8. He won this race overall back in 1998 with Alan McNish in that incredible Porsche GT1. As we go to the break, we will leave you with our top three in all four classes. Two of the four classes are being led by regular American Le Mans Series competitors.
Lee, Henri Pescarolo is a hero in France, and to turn out the two cars that you've turned out, you have to be very pleased, Mr. Pescarolo, with the 16 car.
Yes, of course, I'm very pleased actually, but I was very angry when we had problem with the gearbox, because that car should have been leading very easily the race, you know. Before that, we never had any problem with the gearbox, and that happened when we have the car able to lead the race. So actually, everything is all right. The car is very fast, and the race is still very long.
I was going to say, we still have much time left, but I mean, you've started this race 33 times yourself. You've won it 4 times, so no one knows like you that we have a long way to go and this thing can still be won.
Yeah, but there is something I know. It's necessary to do no mistakes at all to win that race. You know, actually the two Audis are leading very easily. They have no pressure at all, so it will be very difficult to catch them. You know, we should have been with them. We should have been, I think, leading very easily that race. But on both cars we had problems, and that's too much anyway to win.
So you can no longer run a pace. You must go fast from now on, no pace?
Yeah, but I asked my driver to be very careful with the traffic. You know, on one car there was 2 crashes, you know. And the other one, it's no problem at all, except the gearbox at the beginning of the race. So they have to be careful, but they have to be quick also.
To win this race, you've won it 4 times as a driver. To win it as a team owner, what would that mean to you, and what would it mean to France?
You know, it's the first time I had really 2 cars able to win that race. It's why I am very angry, because on the number 17, you know, it's 2 crashes. That should never happen in Le Mans, you know. And that was really the first time we were in a position to win that race, so I am very angry actually.
Well, they have their fingers crossed down here. One of the things that Henri Pescarolo says about his endurance drivers is they're like Formula One drivers, but they have brains. He's not very happy with the guys in the 17 car. You heard that, 2 crashes, unacceptable in his terms.
A man who in his heart boasts the 4 victories, but on his face he carries the scars of Le Mans, burnt severely back in the early 70s. A horrific accident, and one of France's sporting icons, Henri Pescarolo, and to lure the World Rally champion Sébastien Loeb to his team was an absolute delight. He knows just what the fight here at Le Mans is all about. Let's talk GT1 for a moment, because last year's race in what is now called the GT1 category was an epic struggle that came down to the final hours. Corvette Racing's Doug Feehan believes that this year we'll see the same thing, and so far we certainly are here at Le Mans.
Those of you who watched the event last year know how hard fought it was. just between Corvette and Ferrari. Well, now you've added Aston Martin to the mix. They have, you know, a giant pool of engineering expertise, a huge amount of experience. They turn out a car that's immaculately prepared. This is as good as it gets in the world. I mean, it's not like you're dealing with second-tier manufacturers here. I mean, this is Aston Martin, this is ProDrive, it's as good as it gets. I mean, this is Formula One level racing in production-based sedans. It's pretty exciting stuff.
The Corvette driver lineup remains unchanged from last year. Feehan likes the consistency it affords the team, as well as the fact that each of his drivers has a diverse racing background.
These guys have driven in many, many different types of vehicles, in many, many different circumstances, in many different disciplines. That level of experience, I mean, it's hard to place a value on it because it just, at some point in time, they're going to draw upon it. In a 24-hour race like Le Mans, they're going to recall an experience that they've had, whether it be an open wheel or NASCAR or what have you, that comes and serves as a benefit to them and the team. I think one of the most important aspects here at Le Mans is the ability to communicate between the pit box and the driver in the car on the racetrack. You got to remember, this thing is 8.5 miles around. We're very fortunate to have a partner like Motorola, a worldwide leader in radio communications, as you know. Our communication system here at Le Mans is second to none. They spare no expense, and they have all the latest technology. As a matter of fact, the handheld radios we use, I think we're the only civilian group that has these particular radios. These are radios that are used by the CIA and the military. Right now, every place they operate in the world. Motorola has done a magnificent job. It's a huge edge over the competition because I know what the other guys are using, and I know they don't have what we have. And we think that's a big, big advantage.
It might seem that all of this is being done just for the sake of winning the world's most prestigious sports car endurance race, but there's an even bigger reason Feehan and company do what they do.
You know, we're writing Corvette history. This is very, very important to people who know and love Corvette. We have a responsibility. We understand that responsibility, and it's what drives you. We know we're it. The rest of the world is out to dethrone Corvette. Our job is to defend the hill, and that's what we're setting out to do here at Le Mans.
Well, they're doing a pretty good job of it, that is for sure. Meanwhile, the night continues on, the party continues. This is the PlayStation party. They're having a ball in there. Meanwhile, their teams aren't going so well. The fight continues. The Audi teams dominate. And in GT1, it's all Aston Martin. It's a long haul at Le Mans. Some people can stay the distance, others can't. Maybe this guy's already been to the PlayStation party. This is how it looks. Top three in each of our four respective classes. Christensen, Lado, Werner still leading the way. The German Marco Werner is behind the wheel. He leads Alan McNish. And it's the all-Japanese Dome Mugen that sits third. But they have just the narrowest one-lap margin over Eric Comas and the charging Pescarolo Judd. It's American Rick Sutherland, Didier Andre and Paul Belmondo that lead the LMP2 class. It's the Aston Martin with Peter Cox firing off some very quick laps in GT1 ahead of the two Works Corvettes. Incidentally, the 64 is on pit road right now. And the lead, Henry Rockenfeller. Alex Joe Bam Effort leads GT2. Corvette has been serviced, 64 in and out. And the Corvette gang, boy, are they slick in the pits. We're due to see Max Pappas in very shortly as well for his next stop.
Ollie Gavin stays behind the wheel, the 64 back on course. We know these guys have been pitting just seconds apart from one another, and they trade the lead back and forth when they do that. You're right, Pappas is due any moment now, I would think.
I can't wait until later today. I was about to say tomorrow, but later today when sun breaks, we work our way towards 4 o'clock in the afternoon to see if this battle still rages. Here's the third place car. Ryo Mishigami has brought it in. Brian's there.
Lee, like you said, Michigami behind the wheel. It looked like it was going to be a routine stop, but the engine cover is coming off. They'll put another one on, but they're also looking at something down inside, and one of the mechanics motioning, pointing down inside. They've changed engine covers already once this evening, and we could not get an answer as to why. You couldn't see any differences in the two engine covers, but now they're going to go to work on something back here. That's going to very much hurt their third place chances. You know that the Pescarolo coming up quickly from behind, and at this point in time, they're going to catch him, and there's a small electrical fire back in the engine compartment. The mechanic quick to put it out, but some sparks back here in the back. They've got it sorted out, but this is going to be a long stop for the 5 car, Calvin.
Cars in. Johnny O'Connell's just jumped in and taken over from Max Pappas. Another great stop by Dan Binks and the boys. And when we've seen that Aston Martin and the Corvette running together, it does seem to me as though the Aston does have a little bit more straight line speed, and certainly at Le Mans, a lot of that is down to aerodynamics. The Aston has shown up here with slightly revised front-end aerodynamics, especially over what they ran at Sebring. And certainly the Corvette team were a little concerned about whether that was to the letter of the law, but it certainly got through tech, so I assume it's good to go. And another thing is, talking to the Corvette camp, is the fact that the octane rating on the fuel here is only 94, and they run 100 plus over in the States. And Gary Pratt said to me that the team have been very conservative. They certainly run a lot higher, certainly lower compression ratio on the engine with the fear of detonating the motor. They're just not used to this fuel, and he says that is certainly costing us some straight line speed.
Well, that 94 octane isn't good compared to 100. That you can't run as much time and so forth. It just doesn't make horsepower.
While the Dome is in the pit lane, the Pescarolo can pounce. We'll see if it does after this. Yes, that's exactly what we're hoping to do in about half an hour's time. Grab whatever sleep we can as we edge ever so close to the halfway mark of the Michelin 24 Hours of Le Mans. Problems continue for this man, Ryo Michigami and his Dome Mugen. Brian, tell us all about it.
Well, Lee, Michigami still sits in the car, and the problem is one of the leads off the alternator had come loose. It had actually come out of its fitting and was laying back in the engine compartment. This 4-liter Mugen V8, very hot right now. The guy's having to snake another wire through there and get it hooked back up to the alternator. Any way you look at it, a long time in the pits for these guys. It's going to hurt.
So Brian, not only did he have flames on his helmet, but he had flames in the back too.
Pretty hot driver too, Ryo Michigami. He is a former Japanese GT champion. He still competes, in fact, in what they now call the Super GT. We need to squeeze in another quick break. Stick around though.
Dawn at Le Mans, at once both a magical and frustrating moment. For the team still running, it means the short but challenging night is over, and then they realize as they look at that Rolex clock, still almost 10 hours of running yet to go. For the drivers, they have too survived the night, but it also means soon a low sun on grimy windscreens, windshields, and visors. The challenges will continue. Just a little less than 10 hours remaining here at the 73rd running of the Michelin 24 Hours of Le Mans. Welcome, everybody. I am Greg Creamer alongside Alain Decadney. Down in the pits, we will have Chris Neville and Andrew Marriott. Welcome back to Speed Channel's live coverage of this legendary event. And you can see there's the American flag flying, and with good reason. There's great representation here in virtually all of the classes. Overall, as we take a look, it is the American champion ADT Audi team running 1-2, and it is the number 3, currently piloted by Mr. Christensen, who is getting a lot of attention, and deservedly so, as he is, if they hang on way to 6th straight win, never been done, and 7th in his career, which would break the tie he holds with Jack Yix. That is a magical moment, a magical record that may fall today. However, right now, Alan McNish in the team car throwing down some blinding laps in pursuit. Another great story, perhaps, is the fact that the number 16 pole-sitting Pescarolo Judd, which had fallen down to 16th place in the order, has been throwing down very fast laps and has now hauled itself back up to within 3 laps and is now 3rd overall. In LMP2, after that great run earlier by the number 32 Intersport entry with its retirement, right now it is the Belmondo Racing Courage Fords, 1st and 3rd. In the middle, the number 25 Lola MG from Ray Malek Limited RML Racing with the very quick Brazilian Tommy Erdos in the 2nd spot. In GT1, it continues to be the battle between the Aston Martin, the number 58, and the 2 Corvettes. 2nd place right now, the number 64, 3rd, the 63. They are all within a lap, and depending upon pit stops, they can all be on the same lap at certain times. So it too remains close. And then in GT2, as it has been for a very long time, it is the 2 Porsches, the number 71 Alex Job Bam combo entry of Lieb, Hendry, and Rockefeller leading. In 2nd spot, the Peterson White Lightning Porsche, Bergmeister, Long, and Bernard have had a very solid run as well. And then the number 76 Porsche in 3rd. The 2nd place car, Alan McNish, brings it in, and Andrew Marriott is there.
I certainly am now. Frank Bieler was ready with his helmet on, but Alan looks calm and collected. He's not going to get out of the car. He's perfectly happy, but he's not happy about his visor at all. And you probably see him there trying to get the visor clean. And I think we're going to have some more hot laps from Alan McNish. The fuel, the 80 litres has gone in, and off he goes and out another set of tyres. So we're going to see if we can grab hold of Frankie Bieler.
You know, it is true that the Pescarolo that's lying 3rd is lapping maybe 3, even 4 seconds quicker than the 2 Audis, although McNish can certainly take that down to 2.5 seconds. But if you do the arithmetic on it, they still need a couple of 100 laps to get the 3 laps back that they're down. It's as simple as that. I mean, providing Audis just can keep going, they can keep there in the low 40s, they got it made with 10 hours to go. We all know that isn't strictly true. But it's still really Audi's race unless something goes wrong. Well, I think, Andrew, you got Frank Bieler there for us?
You're ready to get in the car, Alan, obviously perfectly happy for another stint.
Yeah, we were talking to Alan, and he's okay. And he said he's going to do another one. So we have to stretch it as long as possible, of course, to make sure we get the best performance out of the tires and everything. So every driver change and then tire change costs some time. So he stays in, and next time it's me.
I have to ask you this question, no team orders?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. That's too early. It's still a very long way to go. So I think everybody has to go his own pace and then see what's the situation around maybe 3 o'clock or something.
It's going to be a big battle. Thanks very much, Frankie.
Thank you.
That's also...
Now my headset doesn't work at all.
That's also very important, I think, to note that the lead car, number 3, is only actually a minute 5 seconds odd in front of the number 2 car. So there will be, no doubt, a nice tasty little mini Grand Prix between the 2 ADT champion Audis.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, and with 10 hours to go, it's going to get very, very hot here. They've all got through the night. All these drivers are actually feeling rather thankful that they've got through the night, and that it's been cooler, and they've been able to get some good laps in. It's going to get hotter, and even though some of the cars are running very, very well at the moment, I know as soon as that sun comes up and the track gets warmer, there'll be some problems. and champion obviously hoping they don't affect them.
You just saw a very key graphic there, and it really tells the tale of the top three. The two champion Audis, very close and very quick in terms of times in the pits, almost double their times that of the Pescarolo Judd, thus the reason it has been so far back at certain points, and that really tells a very interesting tale. For Alan McNish right now, I think the fact that he, one, elected to stay in, two, obviously he likes the shape the Michelin tires are in right now. He is driving extremely quickly, which to me is, Alan, doing a couple of things. One, it is forcing the number 3 Audi to run at a fairly quick pace, keeping the pressure on Christensen et al. But at the same time, when he dips into those 340 laps, it is making sure that Courage in third has to run very fast. And when that car ran fast earlier, it had problems because it's pushing so hard. So I think that's a very effective driving going on by McNish.
Yeah, and also a driver like McNish, and the other Audi drivers too, they prefer to drive on a fast race pace. You know, sometimes when you're racing these cars, if you back off too much and start cruising, well, your concentration can start cruising as well. And then, of course, you're in trouble. That's when you don't hit your apex the way you always have. That's when you don't see that damage on the track or some debris. That's when you don't see the oil, whatever. So these guys, professionals, they'd all rather go at race pace. After all, that's what they're paid for. And plus,
absolutely,
every time they rev up and go faster, Pescarolo just knows that no matter how fast they go, they're really wasting their time.
And we're going to take a look now at the American drivers in each of the classes. Highest placed in the LMP1 class right now, number 10, that's Elton Julian, who we heard a lot of some 6 years ago. He's gone a bit quiet. He is back, and he has been very impressive in that team. Currently 13th overall, 9th in class. And talking to Jan Lammers, he has said this guy's the real deal. Why he's been struggling to get rides, he can't figure it out. In the LMP2 category, number 37 entry is currently 3rd in class, and Rick Sutherland, one of the drivers in that car, so podium position right now. Then, of course, in 8th, but unfortunately retired, is number 32, Liz Halliday. What a great story that was for so long. And then in the 9th spot, and also retired due to an exclusion for backing up on the track after a wheel came off, the number 34 Miracle Motorsports entry, John Macaluso and Andy Lally, pilots in that one. Again, they were doing very well indeed. Then we take a look in the GT1 category. We have Johnny O'Connell sitting in 3rd right now in the number 63 Corvette. And in the number 69, that is a Ferrari 575 GTC. Jim Matthews, part of the driving trio in that one. They're currently 7th in the GT1 category and doing a very nice job. And then in GT2, well, it's quite interesting what's unfolding there. A long list. Number 71, Leo Hendry, one of the team principals of BAM, of course in partnership with Alex Job here. Currently first at what is certainly, he says, his last Le Mans, perhaps his last race, and doing what a great job that team is doing. Patrick Long in the 2nd place car, the young American who is a Porsche factory driver, and what a story he is becoming. In the number 80, that's in 4th, all 4 of the drivers, Americans, Seth Nyman, Johannes van Overbeek, and Lonnie Peshnik, who are also team principals. In 8th overall, or 8th in the GT2 category, number 83, Philip Collin is from the United States. In the number 78, Panos, back and running, by the way, in 11th overall is Brian Sellers, Formula Atlantic standout. And in the number 77, 14th in that car, is Behind the Wall. Garage doors are shut. It is retired, but Bill Oberlin had that car running very quickly in the top 3 in qualifying, higher up at points in the race. That car is done, but the American representation here has been very, very strong indeed.
Yeah, you can say that again. In fact, I think that it just proves what a wonderful race series the American Le Mans series is, because it gets American guys stepping up to the plate, wanting to come over here, and when they do, they put on a great show. And mind you, traditionally, the 24 Hours of Le Mans has always attracted Americans. I mean, the late and great Briggs Cunningham especially just had this almost obsession with winning the race. 3rd overall is the best he ever did, but even still, for a private entrant building his own cars, that wasn't a bad thing.
We were talking just a little while ago, and you mentioned it, about the not liking the visor, all of that grit from the night there on the windscreens or the windshields. Well, heading into Dunlop right now, that is the view many drivers are going to have, and that's got to be very great concern.
Yeah, graveyard run, we call that.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and that's what they're going to have to deal with for a while. Meanwhile, as we said, just a little over 9 hours remaining. Here are your top 6 overall at Le Mans. Welcome back, everybody. We want to let you know that we want to thank our French hosts for their TV coverage. They're providing much of the pictures we're seeing from around this legendary circuit. So our thanks to them. And we want to very quickly get down to the pits where Chris Neville is standing by with a couple of pilotes de course for the Aston Martin team.
Greg, that's right, here with Pedro Lamy. Pedro, right now, trouble-free race for the 58. What's the strategy? Have you guys built up a big enough lead, or are you going to push harder?
We have been pushing hard all the way through. We will see until the end. Now we have a little gap. I don't know if it's time to take care about the car. I think we should push a bit more and see what's going on.
Good luck. Pedro's going to be getting behind the wheel here in just a second, so we're going to let him put his helmet on. Down here with David Barabin. David, 59's had a couple troubles early on. You guys fell back, but you're fighting hard to get back in this game, trying to get back on the podium. You're back on the same lap as Ron Fellows right now. What's the game to get that car further up?
Just drive it flat out, basically. Unfortunately, we had a few penalties at the beginning of the race, which set us right back, and we've been fighting back ever since. But I have to say these DB9s are just performing beautifully. They really are, because it's a brand new program, and we've got one in the lead. We're catching the Corvettes. Still a hell of a long way to go in the race, so we'll just have to keep trying the best we can and see what the result comes.
The sun just came over the horizon. We're going to have about 10 hours of heat. It's going to be another hot day. Any concerns in that Aston?
Yeah, it's going to be hot.
Well, as David was saying, Darren Turr had a couple penalties early on that brought him into pit lane for some stop and goes. He also took the car off, did some damage to the front end, so that car was in the garage for a little bit, but they're fighting hard to get back in this game. Also checked in with the Corvette boys, and they're doing the best they can. They are running the pace that they want to be running, but the Astons are just a little bit quicker, so their strategy right now is don't put a wheel wrong.
Well, that is exactly what they need to do, considering the pace of the Aston Martins right now. And I think one of the interesting things that we've talked about it as this heat builds, Alan, you talked about it, the concern for the Aston Martin is that car has so much aluminum in it that just takes all that heat from that motor and just radiates it right to the cockpit, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. The Aston Martins have aluminum bodies. They absorb the heat more readily than, say, the Corvettes with their fiberglass body. Corvette's also running a fairly rudimentary but quite effective air conditioning system. Air that comes into the car can be cooled and then pumped around the seat, quite importantly sent up to the back of the driver's helmet. So at least the Corvette driver's brains, which, let's face it, are working about 110% here, can get some kind of cooling. But the other thing I think that's quite interesting and will be pertinent later is that I know for a fact that the Aston Martin's hot qualifying laps at about 350 dead were done on the extra hard Michelin tires. So when it gets really, really hot here, they can up their game if they want to. I think the Corvette guys are stuck with a very good time indeed, but I believe the Astons can up their game. And I think what was interesting too is you've got a good man like Brabham there saying that he's driving that car, and his buddies too, out for the rest of the race to catch up.
We just saw a replay, by the way, of a spin of the number 24 Welter Racing, Welter Peugeot, and brought that car in and immediately took a look at it, and it went back into the garage. They've had problems throughout the day. They had earlier in the race, something broke, throwing them into a spin as well. So concerns there. One of the BMS Scuderia Ferraris is in the pits. This is the number 50 entry, and so working on that. A driver change going to be unfolding. And we heard Chris allude to the fact when he was talking to Brabs that they were now within a lap, or on the same lap, I should say, with the number 63 Corvette. Interestingly, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th overall now as a result. The Aston Martins, the two Vets, and the Aston Martin, they are all now in order in the overall rank. So that battle is going to be very, very... One misstep by an Aston Martin, the 64 Vet's going to be there. One misstep by the 63 Corvette, and the 59 Aston Martin is there. This is great stuff.
I have to say, it is, isn't it unbelievable? You've got the major four cars in GT1, all running strongly, all running within a second or two of each other's times. And here we are, we've had, what, 14 odd hours of this race, and they're still battling away. They've done it from the get-go, and they will continue to do it until the flag drops at the end of the race.
My apologies, that's the Larbra competition Ferrari, not the BMS Scuderia entry. Oh, killed it on the way out, and now it looks like we're anticipating a stop by the number 16 Pescarolo Judd, which, by the way, in the hands of pole sitter Emmanuel Collard, has just set the fastest lap of the race, a 3-minute 35.875 second lap, the race's fastest lap to this point as they are hustling. That's a full almost 7 seconds faster than what McNish was able to turn, which was 2 seconds off of Christensen at this point. That could have been down to traffic, but what a lap by Collard.
Yeah, that is an amazing lap. However, he is doing it at the right time because it's still cool. The air is still cold enough to give an extra charge of gas and air into the engine, so that 5-litre Judd is producing as much horsepower right at this minute as it will do during the 24 hours. So that's the time. The track is also now in extremely good condition. There aren't that many cars on it that started the race, so that's a good time to stick some quick laps in. I think what Pescarolo's doing there with his cars is the best that he can, but as we worked out the mathematics, I mean, there aren't enough laps left for them to turn those kind of laps for the rest of it. Plus, when you drive that fast, of course, you are really sliding and chucking the car around. It's not that good for it.
So that, well, they need help from the Audis up front, and that means an Audi problem, and those don't come frequently, that's for sure. So, but you can't quit because stranger things have happened, and obviously Collard out. Jean-Christophe Bouillon now crawls behind the wheel, and we'll see if his work cut out for him to match the pace that Collard has been setting in his last couple of stints.
And also, we did mention this in our previous 2 shows, that the Audis are running on reduced horsepower. I mean, they could drive these things flat out for 24 hours with an extra 100 horsepower, and that's what they used to do. Today they don't have the 100 horsepower, but you're not going to be breaking things like your drive shafts or your gearbox or whatever, straining it when you've got 100 horsepower less than those things have all been destruction tested with.
And you also mentioned the fact that it is the 2 Pescarolos that are running 5-liter V10 Judds. The other 2 hybrid cars that were in this were the Courage Competition factory entries. They're running 4 liters, but they're running at the same weight. They're running, I believe, at the same restrictor. How do they get to run a 5-liter engine and not have to have any weight differentials or something? Is it a matter of how the engine's put together?
Well, not particularly, no. I mean, it's just a combination formula of weight and restrictor and engine capacity sort of dialed up into a combination that works. The advantage of the 5-litre engine is not in horsepower at all particularly, it's just got a lot more torque, and of course you won't be turning the 5-litre lump at the same revs as a 4-litre lump. However, funny things happen. You see, you could have a 4-litre engine that has gone the distance, but because the 5-litre engine's on less revs, it could produce a harmonic with something, like an exhaust pipe header could break on a 5-litre when it wouldn't break on a 4-litre. The only one way to find out, go and do it.
All right, well, as we watch the number 64 vet, second place in GT1 in the pits, Chris Neville has caught up with the gentleman who has just set the fastest lap at this Le Mans.
That's right, Greg, down here, Manny Collard. Manuel, that was an awesome 3 stints you just did, setting some of the fastest laps of the race. You guys are trying to get back in this fight. Is there enough time to do that?
Yeah, I think now it's time to push because we are still too far from the first 2 cars, so we need to push now. The car is really good, so we have to try something.
You guys are running about 10 seconds quicker than the Audis. Do you need to keep that pace up for the rest of the race?
We will see if we can do that until the end. Yes, why not?
Now you're a driver who's trying to go for the double, the win at Daytona earlier this year and the win at Le Mans. Now only 3 other drivers have done that. Is that something you're really trying to set out to do here this year?
Yeah, we would like really to do that, but it's a long time to go again, so that's why.
Good luck.
He has been tremendously impressive. There is no question of that. Meanwhile, our leader, Thomas Christensen, is bringing the number 3 Audi, leading by a lap at this stage, bringing it down into pit lane, and it looks as though he plans, or is he making the change? Nope, he just got his hands out of the way so they can go after that windscreen. He's staying on board. They're not even bringing Michelin's out in case they want to change. They're so comfortable with how those tires are working, which Alain means fuel only, and these stops have been very fast.
Yeah, the pit work is just like well-oiled machinery, as we've said. I mean, these guys really hone it down to everything, just having its little window to do it in. and they got it done just right. Although, it's a tricky time of the race, this, because you can always get lulled when you're up at 1 and 2, like Audis are, into a slightly false sense of security. As I said earlier, these guys would rather be out there racing, but in fact, they have got to cruise at a regulated high speed. It's asking quite a lot of them, actually. And, well, good old Collard, as he said, you've got to try something. Well, wishful thinking, dude. I think that unless these Audis pack up, you know, you can end up with a nice fast lap. You can end up personally feeling very comfortable. Pescarolo can acquit himself with some valor, if you wish. Very important to the French. But they can't go fast enough to draw that missing 3 laps, I'm afraid.
Well, we saw the stop of the 64 vet. We have seen the 63 vet is in and now on its way out. And right, boy, I'll tell you what, that 58 Aston Martin was able to get out just in front right there. And so this will be quite interesting. Remember that they are up a lap anyway. And look at this, the number 63 vet trying to get around, and the Aston Martin not making it particularly easy.
Yeah, just chopped him off. Well, I think the old vet may well have a bit more grunt from the word go there with that big old engine in there. But on the other hand, this is the needle match. These guys are really having little mini Grand Prix amongst themselves, and for the next, what have we got, 9 hours and 33 minutes left. This is going to be the battle to watch.
That's Lamy, Pedro Lamy is behind the wheel of the Aston Martin, and it is still Ron Fellows who stayed in on that stop behind the wheel of the vet. So Fellows able to stay right there right now. But one of the things that the Corvette drivers have said when they've been close to the Aston Martins out on track, and when we talk to them later, they continue to just be very amazed at the straight line speed of the Aston Martin. That is that same number 24 WR Peugeot, and it has gone around again. You can get a replay of it here. Just, well, he ran way wide, didn't he, and the back end came around.
Yeah, a lot of loose stuff on the marbles and the nuggets. Oh, look at them all over the place. I mean, you get offline here. Yeah. Well, you see again, that's just a concentration failure there.
Sure.
You know?
That's Tirada behind the wheel of that machine. Boy, now he's just right in the line, and got 2 workers out there, and they're not able to get that move. So it's going to be frustrating.
I hope our picture suppliers can put us back to the Aston Corvette battle, because the Fellows and Lamy together duking it out. That's really what I would like to be seeing.
Here's take a look here, and you can see that Yohiro Terada, who is the driver of that number 24 entry, in a tie for 3rd in terms of all-time starts here with Derek Bell. Henri Pescarolo with 33, the record. Wallach with 30, and Francois Migaud with 25 is in the 5th spot all-time. Welcome back to Le Mans. It's the Michelin 24 Hours of Le Mans at 73rd running. Want to give you an update as to where the top 3 are running in each of the 4 classes. Up front, it is Christensen in the Audi. It is the team car right behind within a lap. And then 3 laps back is the number 3, or excuse me, the number 16 and 3rd, now in the hands of Jean-Christophe Bouillon, that is trying to make up time madly. The Pescarolo Judd that sat on pole in LMP2. It is basically a Belmondo Racing sandwich, running 1st and 3rd with the number 25 RML Ray Malak Limited Lola MG sitting in the middle in the 2nd spot. We go to the GT categories. In GT1, a fascinating battle really right now. The number 58 Aston Martin, Pedro Lamy behind the wheel. Then it is the 2 Corvettes, 64 and 63 respectively, that sit 2nd and 3rd. And time is running out for them, because right now that Aston Martin is running laps as quicker. It's going to be interesting. In GT2, well, it's been fascinating all day. The number 71 and the number 90 have been really swapping things out. When one stops, the other one picks up the lead, and they seem to have the measure right now of the number 76 entry, which sits in the 3rd spot. That is the Raymond Nerrick Racing Porsche, and but it is right there, and it has been running some pretty quick laps of its own. So that's how things stand. Top 3 in each of the 4 classes here at the 73rd running of the Michelin 24 Hours of Le Mans, and we are now under 9.5 hours remaining. A huge development, second overall, second in LMP1. That is Alan McNish, and he has gone straight off into the gravel trap, and he is dug in. You can see some of the marshals over there trying to find out exactly what to do. Here comes one of the tractors, and they're going to try and get that car pulled out. But devastating development here for that team, that car in particular in this team in its pursuit.
Yeah, they could have done without that for sure. He's just searching for the big old hook at the back of the car that goes onto the chassis. They'll pick the line up, and that four-wheel tractor will dig him out because he's buried in that gravel. So I guess he's had a lock-up under braking, or he's hit some oil, and he's just gone straight on. However, the front doesn't look too badly punted to me. They could just maybe tow him back. He can brew it up, and so he'll see how it feels. If it feels good, he'll just continue. If there's anything wobbly or wonky, he'll have to call in the pits and get it sorted. But actually, I think the gravel stopped him before he got into the tar barrier there.
Well, yeah, I think that's exactly right. So I don't think he has damage, but obviously you can see the marshals were trying to scoop some gravel that I'm sure got shoveled up on that and trying to get him out. The question is, why? Was it, as you said, just lockup? Was it oil? Or was it traffic that caught him out and he was taking evasive? At this point, we just don't know. We're hoping to get some sort of idea from our French coverage here. If they were able to pick that up, we certainly hope so. But nonetheless, look at McNish absolutely going ballistic inside that car because he's telling them, no, I need to go forward, and you're pulling me further and further and further away here. And now he's at least getting onto some tarmac, Alan.
Yeah, that's right. Now, if he can fire that engine up and find himself a way around, he may rally across that thing out of there. I mean, his blood is up. He'll be seriously annoyed, either with himself or with whatever caused it. Won't be his fault, I'm sure. Never is. But
right.
Hey, you know, we could see some mega laps from him if he gets back on the course.
Well, it looks like Frank Biela would be getting into the car. Remember, he was expected to get in.
He's got it going. He's okay. He's back in business.
Looks to me like there's something wrong with that right front where the louvers are on top of that right front tire, and I wonder if maybe something developed and blew. You know, sometimes those rubber doesn't all the rubber build up, and then it gets thrown up, and it'll blow those things right off.
Or he could have chucked a bit of tread. I'm not sure. That's unusual damage. I don't think that didn't come from his punt. He's got some sparks coming too. So he's dragging his skid plate. Well, back to the pits.
But again, it did not look, as you called it, it did not look like that car got into the tires, that it was stopped short. Now, it may have dug into the gravel and done that damage. Andrew Marriott, what are you hearing?
Well, I'm right in the pit here. Everybody's poised to leap onto this car. At least, well, 4 people allowed to do that. They are showing no signs of pushing it back into the garage when it comes. They don't have the equipment prepared to do that. I suspect they're going to have a quick inspection of this car. It obviously appears to have a puncture from the way it's running on the racetrack. And we'll bring you an update once the car arrives with me. It's going to be in a couple of minutes, guys.
Yeah, but that front right-hand wheel's really bent in. It's towed in like crazy. So I think there has actually been accident damage there. We'll see. We'll just have to see what transpires.
Well, you saw him run wide over the curbing again.
Yeah.
I mean, went off track, so it is not right. There's no question of that. The question remains what may have caused it. And you can see that splitter is just obviously got in that gravel, and it is just flat on the deck right now. But it's that right front whole fender assembly. You can see the headlights are broken inside there. They're just pranging around, but that splitter is right down on the ground.
Yeah, he's back in the pit road now, and they'll have that front off. Now you'll see some very snappy repair work going on here.
Yeah, the tire actually looks like it's fairly inflated, so it must be some sort of damage, or maybe just that nose absolutely gone down right now, bouncing on the ground. You're losing all kinds of grip, obviously.
Yeah, and he could have hit the tar barrier and bounced back out of it, of course. That's probably what really happened, is he did hit the tar barrier and bounced back out.
We've seen those Audis do that before. Pretty sturdy. They hit and don't just crumble.
Well, that's right.
They fight back a little bit. So while they're going to affect repairs, McNish gets out. We expect Biela to get in, and there's a look at that damage.
Yeah, they can't touch that, of course, until they've got all the fuel in.
Boy, frustrating moments for the mechanics who would love to be jumping onto that, solving that problem. They can do the driver's change, remember, while they are refueling. But, Andrew, they cannot touch the car until the fueling's done. Now they go to work.
Yes, indeed. They're just taking the tattered nose off the front, just trying to have a look at the right front wheel, and now this nose comes off. Another one is ready to go on, and just looking to see if there's any suspension damage there, and I don't see too much there. There's a lot of grass in front of the splitter. The splitter itself seems intact, and I don't think this is too desperate. They're looking at the underneath side of the car, but no parts are out on the pit lane. And, well, they might have got away with this. Obviously, they've lost some time stuck in the gravel, but doesn't look too bad. Oh, the car is going back in the garage.
I think it has to, Andrew, because of all those sparks flying out the bottom there. Without punctured tires, something's dangling down.
And looking at all the suspension arms on the right front, you can't see anything desperate.
Well, Andrew,
they're having a good inspection to see what the problem is there.
Andrew, as we were watching it come in...
I'm going to dive in and try and get hold of Alan McNish.
All right, Andrew, as we were watching it come in, the right front corner of that splitter, Alan, was, I mean, absolutely down on the deck, and it was angled down, very unusual angle, so maybe it was just a matter of the supports for that right side had broken when he skipped through the gravel, or as you said, nudged the tires.
Yeah.
And they've got to get it in the garage out of pit lane to effect that repair.
Well, you can't put a new snout onto it if the pickups are all deranged. You've got to just change the whole darn thing. See, that's often what happens, of course. Mind you, we have seen these Audis punt the barriers and goodness knows what, bounce back into the road and get on with it, but that was kind of a bad luck arrangement, I think, but we'll see what the answers are.
Now, depending upon the length of this stop, keep in mind he spent an awful long time in that gravel trap, and you were just seeing lots of shots of the number 16 Pescarolo Judd in the hands of Jean-Christophe Bouillon right now, who is lapping at a 3-minute 36-second pace, and so they are screaming into that gap and maybe looking at second spot. Let's go back down to Andrew.
Yes, indeed. Well, they are going to bolt a full right front corner onto the car, so they obviously have some concern with that. There's a right front corner waiting to go on the car, but this is going to take about 5 minutes, I should think. Alan McNish has completely disappeared around the back of the garage somewhere. I'm still going to try and get the little man from Dumfries out of there, but as you can gather, it's pretty hectic down here. We've been pushed around a bit, and the rear deck is now coming off also. That's probably just for an inspection.
Yeah, that he's obviously given that quite a good old clout, but quite why, whether he overcooked it or exuberance, oil, red rock, a million of one things, we didn't see it, so we can't comment. However, what we will see is a lovely race-prepared front right-hand corner that's completely set to the suspension characteristics of the one that's coming off, and that'll go straight on and put that car straight back in the reckoning.
Now, the French Audi team, the Orica PlayStation entry, remember, they had problems with the right front that would certainly appear to be related to a couple of trips through gravel traps. So when you're going at speed and pounding across the gravel, obviously, that's maybe taking its toll, and we're seeing something similar here. This, though, that car didn't really have contact. It was just rough rides through the gravel. This one, something has gone wrong. I mean, it was damage to the bodywork, not just to that right front hub.
Well, going over the gravel at high speed, it's tantamount, really, to a big old loose, coarse grindstone, if you think about it. You've got all those pebbles whacking your car at whatever speed you go in. So it's a trade-off. It slows you down super quickly. After all, if he'd punted the barrier flat out, it'd be a different kettle of fish altogether. This is one of those kind of, horrible early morning things that always happens at Le Mans. We said earlier, it can be a sort of dangerous, hairy time, a false sense of security.
Well, and what it has done, it has given life, perhaps, to the number 16 Pescarolo Judd, which has a very realistic shot at this moment of maybe picking up second spot while the number 2 Audi sits in pit lane. Monday nights on Speed, get inside Nextel Cup. Off the cuff and a bit off center. Michael Waltrip, Kenny Schrader, Johnny Benson, and Alan Bestwick cover NASCAR from a whole new angle. Inside Nextel Cup, Monday nights at 8, right here on Speed. And there is a look at the overall race leader. Number 3, Tom Christensen, continues in that car, lapping this last lap about a 3:44. So obviously willing to back it off by a second or two with the problems that have developed for the McNish entry, knowing the margin that he also will have over the number 16 Pescarolo, assuming it picks up the second spot, which we certainly expect it will happen. So once again, Mr. Decadenet, we are seeing things fall Tom Christensen's way. Last year, yes, he was in an Audi, but it was an Audi that was not among the favored ones. It ends up with the win. This year, they weren't sure if they'd be the fastest and be able to win, and he's looking very good again. But they are going to have to continue to have a trouble-free run in front of the Pescarolos, and Chris Neville is with Henri.
Thanks, Greg. Henri, we just saw problems with the 2 car. Your 16 car is absolutely flying right now. Can you win this race?
Yes, as I told you before, it was very difficult to catch the Audis except if they have some problems. So McNish did a mistake, and now we are on second position. So I hope that will continue without any problem, and we could even catch a first car before the end of the race. But first of all, we must have no problem at all, and it's never sure.
Well, this man has 33 years of experience, and right now his 16 car has worked its way up to second place.
And Chris, it has done so with some flair. Mr. Bouillon has just reset fast lap of the race, taking it away from his teammate Collard. He has now turned a 3-minute 34.9 second lap, sub 3:35. They are flying right now. And let's not forget, we keep talking about Henri's 33 starts in this event. He does have 4 wins in this one as well. And we have another car that is off. Tough to see on the monitors here. Maybe it looks like one of the Porsches, and it is well and truly off. So problems there. But again, for Henri, obviously he knows that they have but one thing they can do right now, Alan, and that would seem to be just let it fly and hope you have problems up front. That, by the way, is the number 91 T2M Motorsport. That is one of the Porsche 911 GT3 RSs, the older of the Porsche Jet GT chassis right now, and it is off, and substantially so.
Yeah, that's planted good and proper. I think just going back to Pescarolo there, his car is being driven like a Formula 3 car with 2 seats. I mean, we're having a sort of object lesson here in how to chuck a 550 horsepower prototype around this track with vigor and gusto. But no matter how fast they drive it, if they keep up that record-breaking time that they're doing, they still can't reel in Christensen and his two buddies. So they've just got to keep it on the island. They've seen McNish's car go off. They've seen everybody else that's gone off go off. I mean, they know what they've got to do. They just got to keep cool, keep calm, keep collected, keep it on the black, and just wait for that 8 hours and 59 minutes to go by.
That is exactly right. It is now. We have eclipsed another hour here at Le Mans, and it has been a fascinating couple of hours since we came back on, obviously, with lots of developments. There is the top 6 overall right now. Christensen continuing to get some nice breaks because of the actions of those behind, and the pace of the number 16 Pescarolo, Judd, has been absolutely stunning. Here's a look at what's gone on in this last hour. There, the big story, Alan McNish and off. We still don't know exactly what happened, whether it was an error, whether there was oil, whether there was traffic involved. Nonetheless, damage to the right front. And you see him right there just trying to bring it home. Sparks flying everywhere. That whole right front corner collapsed right down on the deck, plus the damage. They took a look at it. It was some serious work needed to be done. Into the garage it goes. Meanwhile, out on the track, that number 16 Pescarolo, now in the hands of Jean-Christophe Bouillon, is absolutely flying. We are now back to live, watching what is going on. Andrew, what's happening?
They're just finishing off the work here. They had quite a bit of problem fitting that new right corner because the mounting points were just a little bit out of kilter. The new nose is going to go on, and I think this car will be back in the race with Frankie Bieler at the wheel in just 2 or 3 minutes now. There has been suggestion here there was a problem with, I believe, the right rear tyre. Certainly I've seen it around the back of the garage, and it is shredded on one half of the outside rim of the tyre, but whether that was coming back in from the incident or whether that caused it, we've yet to find out. Alan McNish has completely disappeared, so we can't get his comment. As soon as this work is over, we'll be able to get input from Brad Kettler, but Brad is still actually getting his hands dirty at the moment. So it's been all hands to the wheel down here. And obviously this is a big setback for this car because it was having a big battle for the lead.
Well, one of the interesting things about that whole development, you saw the graphic that we showed right early in the show. We came on the amount of time in the pits, and the two Audis had very minimal time in the pits, and then the big break in the pits, almost double that for the Pescarolo. They have now been in the pits, this number 2 entry, 13 minutes in the garage alone for this. You can't do that.
No, I mean, that's the kind of time you want to spend in the pits altogether for the whole darn race, more or less. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's bad luck, and I suppose that's why Alan has disappeared as well. He just doesn't want to talk about it. Who can blame him?
Watching the graphics from our host French World feed and giving us a good rundown right there of what's unfolding in the LMP1 division, LM1 as they show it on the graphics here, and give you a good idea. It looks like they're going to give us pretty much each class. And we have a safety car on course, perhaps because of that off for the number 91 entry. And if the safety car is out, again, if you're just joining us, very unique here because of the length of this track at 8.5 miles and not wanting anybody to get a huge break in terms of making up margin or a huge penalty in terms of going down one of those massive laps. They put out, as I understand it, Alan, 3 safety cars to kind of at least keep things within reason here. Here comes the number 4 PlayStation Audi, timing it beautifully to duck in right as the full course caution and the safety cars come out.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Greg. I mean, the idea behind that is basically you can't catch up more than a third of a lap on any one police car, safety car outing. And that works quite well. That works pretty well too, by the way.
They continue to try and get this wrapped up here and get Bila out on track. Now, it's helping marginally that there's a caution, but one of the things that we were really amazed with as well is that the pace of those Audi RS6 pace cars, they really flog it around here.
Well, they do. I think the factory produced those especially for this event. They've got R8 lumps in there, and they make a lovely growl. And I did chat to one of the drivers, one of the pace car drivers, and he just gave me a big old smile when I said, you seem to be enjoying yourself. So I think they're having a lot of fun. You know, the problem putting this right front corner on, if the pickup points have been moved at all, then they've got the aggravation, they've got to track the thing up as well.
Right.
Those corners are normally just set so that you put the new corner on, it picks up on the old pickup points, and the tracking is set where it was in the first place. If the pickup points move, that means the tub has had a punt as well, obviously, because those pickup points are smack on the carbon fiber tub. So it looks like this was obviously quite a heavy old shot, because those Audis, they'll take a big one and not even notice.
So perhaps alignment issues that they're going to have to deal with and find out how it is working when Bila brings the number 2 Audi out on track. Number 3, Tom Christensen, continues to lead and gets a bit of a margin in hand right now. The Pescarolo now up to 2nd. Still in 3rd is the number 2 Audi in LMP2. That Belmondo Courage Ford Racing sandwich continues around the Lola MG of Ray Malak Limited. Then we go to GT1. It is still the Aston Martin out front of the 2 Corvettes. And in GT2, the 7190 Porsche battle with the number 6 sort of laying in wait, hoping for a shout. Speed Channel's live coverage of the Michelin 24 Hours of Le Mans is brought to you by Audi. In technology, performance, and design, our goal remains constant. Never follow. Just a few moments ago, they wheeled the number 2 Audi back out into pit lane. Frank Bila behind the wheel. They lift up and they pull those little rollers out. Car drops down, and he was off and away. Now, Alan, you had talked about it. We'll have to see with the damage to that car and the pickup points, etc., how it is handling at this point. We'll be watching for that. And with these developments, we thought maybe we should have Andrew Marriott give us an update on what's going on with Audi.
Well, Brad, I know your other car's coming in so very quickly. Presumably the suspension was quite badly damaged there.
Yeah, when it got off in the gravel there, it damaged the upper wishbone. In addition to the splitter and the nose and so forth. And rather than just change the wishbone, we changed the whole corner rather than take it. It's got a little bit of aerodynamic damage in the floor and the pod, but it should be up to speed and not have any trouble continuing.
Do we know why he went off?
we're still trying to figure out that, but I think that Alan got a lot of pickup, and it launched a big piece of pickup off, and actually gave him a lot of trouble when the pickup came off. I haven't talked to Alan, so I shouldn't say 100% for sure.
And the strategy now, because the Courage is catching up with the Pescarolo, I said catching up your other car.
Just push like hell.
Thanks very much.
Well, that's pretty basic. That's exactly what you're saying, is just go for it now. I mean, they're in the same situation that the Pescarolo has been in for quite some time, is just go.
Yeah, on occasions like this, it's when drivers can really step up to the plate big time. You know, their blood is up and they want to get on with it. And also for a team that has been up the sharp end and then it falls back, suddenly the whole team can get galvanized because the adrenaline's flowing like crazy. Not only the drivers pumped, you know, all the mechs are pumped and everybody wants to get on with it. So there'll be we saw some sparks flying from that car, literally. Well, we'll see some metaphorical sparks flying now, that's for sure.
And as he said, we'll be looking forward to them coming in and doing a change of brakes. Meanwhile, we watch the number 58 Aston Martin making its way into the pits, leading in the GT1 division on the same lap right now with the 64 Corvette, but up by about 2.5 minutes at this stage, and a lap clear of the third place car. And they have just been running like clockwork. Really since the start of this race, thus the fact that they are in a comfortable lead of sorts.
Yep, and it should all go like clockwork too, but it only takes a starter motor that doesn't engage or something crazy like that, or a jack that collapses, and things differ. But this team too, very well honed. They've been watching those Corvette pit stops to try to get their own act together, and they've succeeded. And when you think these guys have been up for what, over 24 hours, because they were all here this time yesterday morning, it's pretty darn good, really. I mean, the way these guys kick into action, it's kind of like a chicken with its head cut off. It just sort of keeps running around the farmyard.
Automatically keeps, well, it's, you know, a pretty good program there with ProDrive and Dave Richards. They've been there before and know exactly what they're doing, and working very, very well at this point. So they are back out. Just another great pit stop for the Aston Martin program, and the number 58, although it's given up a little bit of time to the Corvette, still leads, and that margin will expand again when the Corvettes pit at this point. Now, when we come back, we're going to take a very short break. There was another race that unfolded here. It was on Saturday before the start of the big show. We're going to have some highlights from that and a visit from Alain de Cadenet with a legend here at Le Mans.
One illustrious gentleman who's competing in the Legends of Le Mans race here at Le Mans before the 24-hour race is Sir Sterling Moss, and you're in a C-Type Jaguar, and I know you haven't driven one of these professionally for, what, over 50 years?
Over 50 years. I think 1952, I think, was when I first drove the thing. And I must say, a fabulous car, beautiful car. I mean, there are others like it, but this is actually the earliest remaining one, because Sir William broke up 3 cars for whatever reason, and this is the earliest one known, therefore.
Now, I know when you did this race for real, being a real racer, you had great trouble sort of holding back because you just wanted to get on with it.
Well, I am a racer, and quite frankly, to come here for 24 hours and flog around at reduced revs, and it wasn't my idea of fun. And luckily, the Lofty England said, look, you go out and be the rabbit, try and break up the opposition. And so that's what I do. I go out and try and get the fastest lap and lead the race for a while, and then go to bed, leave them for 24 hours.
Well, 1955 was the year that Sterling Moss also, I believe, won the most extraordinary motor race that he drove in of all time, one of the most extraordinary feats in motor racing, the Mille Miglia. That'll be celebrated later. But such is the pull of Le Mans that Sir Sterling is back here, 2005, driving a car he hasn't driven really hard for over 50 years.
And it was great fun to watch, as was this moment. That is our Alain de Cadenet visiting with a gentleman by the name of Johnny Herbert, who threw down some very fast laps. And Alan, at the start, it was absolutely joyous to watch this.
Well, wasn't it? Don't you think? I mean, there's some really lovely cars on the grid. Long-nose D-types, short-nose D-types, C-types, and Johnny Herbert and Willie Green here, look, put on a little dice. In fact, Johnny Herbert was quite a lot quicker. I think he's a Grand Prix driver and he's very current, but it looked great. And there's Sir Sterling Moss. You see, the whole thing about this vintage racing at a place like Le Mans isn't really to go crazy. It's just to enjoy yourself and share the sight and the sounds of the cars with the spectators. And that's exactly what happened. Johnny won it. He would have qualified for the 24-hour race in his D-type Jaguar. He was that quick.
What a spectacular show he put on, and you can see Johnny celebrating just a little bit. You can see that Sterling was giving it a bit of well. He had it around once, quick spin. He was having a great time.
Yeah, he did. He did. He just loves to race.
And the number 78, Panos, makes its way in. They are well down the order at this point after some problems, but since they got them fixed, I believe it was clutch related, that car has just been clocking the laps. Franchitti getting out at this point. And Andrew Marriott, more information or insight regarding Audi?
Yes, indeed. I've just come out to the Eureka garage, and they tell me that they had 2 front suspension breakages on their car, and while they're staying pretty tight-lipped at champion Audi, the Eureka people are suggesting to me that what happened to Alan McNish is the same problem that they had, and that some front suspension component broke. And then if that's the case, that'd be worrying and be unusual. Of course, these cars are just so tried and tested. But that's what I'm hearing anyway from the Eureka boys.
Yeah, that's ominous, because it could be that a supplier of suspension components, maybe the new A-frames that all came through for this year's cars, have a welding flaw. Maybe the metal is metallurgically not sound. I don't know. I mean, that's just supposition. It has no validity, of course, until such time as we hear otherwise. But I could find that quite concerning.
That may have explained when Keller was talking about. He said that Alan thought that a bunch of rubber buildup, let loose and popped right through and ripped those louvers off the car. May have been as a result of something breaking inside there and breaking that all loose.
Yeah.
Here are the drivers at Le Mans for Champion Racing. Christensen 6 wins, Biela 3, Puro 3, Leto and McNish 1 each. And Werner, although he's been on the podium, doesn't have a win, although he is a double ALMS champion. So you can do the math there. That's 14 by my count wins represented by the 6 drivers in Champions attack here at Le Mans. 14 Le Mans wins among those drivers. That's some experience.
Yeah, that's an amazing lineup, I have to say. Unbelievable.
So when adversity hits, I mean, it's nice to have drivers of that experience level who can simply be able to, deal with it, know what to do, and understand. It's huge.
Yeah, even the way McNish coped with his problem. I mean, they towed him out. He knows exactly what he's got to do. No messing about. Let's get back to the pits. Let's get it fixed. And Frank Biela's turning some pretty tasty times in that number 2 car. He's down there in the low 40s. That tells me that it's handling certainly well enough. You don't start turning low 40s in anything around here unless it's handling well.
Well, we are watching here, and this continues to be Tom Christensen, one of the greatest drivers at Le Mans when you take a look at his record over the years. And a large reason for that is because he has been fortunate to be paired with arguably one of the, if not the greatest Le Mans prototype to come along in a very, very long time, the glorious Audi R8.
Regulation changes for 2006 will bring with it the close of an era, the end of the road for one of sports car racing's most accomplished icons. Its merits rank it easily with the likes of Ford's magical GT40 and Porsche's dominant 956 and 962. 54 victories in 66 race starts to date. 4 times winner at the legendary Le Mans 24 Hours. Unbeaten at both Sebring and Petit Le Mans, 5 consecutive American Le Mans Series championships, and a clean sweep of the Le Mans Endurance Series in 2004. A win for every 1.2 starts. The most successful Le Mans prototype of all time, the astonishing Audi R8. The project, whose internal designation code became the car's name, was far-sighted and had one goal: victory at Le Mans. Early on, the means to that goal were less definitive, however. Open Spider or closed-top coupe became the question as Audi very publicly experimented with both at Sebring and Le Mans in 1999. The result was an all-new open-top R8 that was unveiled by Alan McNish at Miami Beach in March of 2000.
Ladies and gentlemen, the fastest convertible Miami Beach, now the R8.
5 days later at Sebring, Audi newcomer Tom Christensen was very optimistic prior to the R8's maiden start.
Even with a brand new car like this, we have a very good shot at it at this week in Sebring already. Although that the car is built with the purpose of the 24 hours of Le Mans. I think we're looking very, very strong.
Strong was an understatement. Since crushing the opposition in its Sebring debut, the R8 has been full throttle ahead. Audi engineered this car to do everything just a little bit better, and those little bits have literally redefined the category. The R8 pioneered electro-pneumatic paddle gear shifting in sports car racing, and Alan McNish provided us a closer look back in 2000.
Hanging on the end is a 6-speed longitudinal gearbox, which we don't shift manually with a gear lever. We've actually got paddles on a steering wheel, a la Formula 1, and that makes it significantly easier.
Paddle shift is now available on many Audi models, but perhaps the ultimate display of motorsport improving the breed is Audi's FSI direct fuel injection system. Developed on the R8 since 2001, FSI has played an integral role in Audi's success on the track through reduced fuel consumption and improved throttle response. FSI is now standard on A3, A4 and A6 models. The R8 has not only redefined performance, however, it is the very embodiment of reliability. In 5 seasons and thousands of punishing miles, the R8's 3.6-litre twin-turbocharged V8 has never failed in competition. The R8 was consistently a step ahead, this due in no small part to 7 times Le Mans winner Reinhold Jost. Jost is a man who made a habit of embarrassing the factories at their own game at Le Mans. He understands the importance of minimising time lost in the pits, and it was at his prompting that the R8 single-handedly raised the bar of endurance racing at Le Mans in 2000.
The winch is going down, and it looks like, I can't believe this, they're going to winch anything out. My view at this point is blocked, as you can imagine. Oh, here comes the whole back end. This is that story we talked about at the beginning of the week. They can change the back end of this car in less than 7 minutes.
Well, this is Reinhold Jost, you see. This is where this man is so bright, so clever. He anticipates this kind of thing happening, so he's prepared for it.
And at this point, we've just hit the 2-minute mark on this change. They're already getting ready to put the rear end back on as they now wheel out that car. It's been 3 minutes, 15 seconds at this point.
Unbelievable.
Okay, now it's gone down. Wheels have touched ground. 3 minutes, 47 seconds, and Alan McNish is out back in front.
That's an object lesson to any other team that ever wants to come to this race. If you can't do that, then trouble to come here.
5 years on, the R8 continues to succeed, but we now eagerly anticipate Audi's 2006 successor. Details are scarce at this point, but one thing is certain, Audi Sport has their work cut out for them if they are to improve on the mighty R8.
Yeah, you can say that again. You know, that car has set a whole new paradigm for anybody else. You know, if you can't step up to that Audi R8 plate, again, don't bother to come.
Well, as you put in there, you said, you know, if you can't do that with that box change, don't come. Well, because nobody else could, they actually have made that illegal now because of that very deal. What a story it has been. Now, of course, you can take a look here and see the success of the Audi. 4 wins here, 2000, 2001, 2002. The only year it hasn't won since it's been here was in 03 when the Bentley Coupe was able to pull it off. But there are some other marques that have had some tremendous success here, led by Porsche with 16 overall wins and numerous class wins. And it looks like there's a battle afoot for another class win here in GT2. And Chris Neville is standing by with one of the lead drivers for one of those lead cars.
Greg, down here with Jörg Bergmeister. Jörg, you guys have kind of slipped back a little bit in GT2. You've lost a lap to the lead car right now because of a brake change you did. But do you have anything left for these guys? Can you get back on that lead lap and try and shoot for the win?
Yeah, I think they have to change their brakes as well, the pads at least. So that should bring us back to the lead lap, and then we will see. We're pushing really hard, but I think that car is a little bit faster right now. So if they don't hit any problems, it will be really hard to beat them.
Anything the lack of speed in your car right now due to the hit you had in qualifying?
No, there are no problems. The hit was not that bad, and we found the problem that caused the accident. So the car's running really well. We're just a little bit down on top speed compared to the 71 car. We're like 5-6K slower than they are, but the car's running really well.
Well, like Jörg said, these boys have already done their brake change, so the BAM car does need to come in and do a brake change in the next couple hours. And it looks like Leo Hendry is also going to get behind the wheel, and he's just not as strong as the 2 Porsche factory drivers in that car. So these guys might have a chance to get back on that lead lap and hopefully fight for the win.
It has been a phenomenal battle between those two cars since the get-go, and as Leo Hendry did confirm that there was going to be a brake change coming for that car, so that's what they were waiting for. We saw that graphic about the 16 overall wins by Porsche leading here. Of course, many of those came from the 956, 962 chassis versions of that, but perhaps the first one is always the most special, and that came at the hands in terms of performance, not necessarily results over a long span because it was short-lived, but in terms of performance, one of the most monstrously powerful performance cars that has ever been created for sports car racing, and two of the veterans that were behind the drive for that first ever win, well, we were able to do a little piece and look back at that magical piece of equipment from Porsche.
The whole of Porsche's racing effort at that time was spearheaded by Ferdinand Piëch, Dr. Porsche's nephew, who is an unbelievable powerhouse.
He built the 917 to win Le Mans. I wanted to win Le Mans, and I was convinced that that was the car to do it in.
And at that point, Porsche threw everything into a program to build 25 917s in 1969.
Suddenly, we had the opportunity to have a car that was 25 miles an hour quicker than everything else. It went to Le Mans, and Piëch and Bott made no secret of the fact they considered it was purely a test run. The car was going to break anyway, and I didn't believe it. And so I kept lobbying Piëch and Bott almost to the last minute to have a 917, and finally they gave in. And they said, okay, who's going to share it with you? And I said, Richard Atwood.
I wouldn't have elected to drive the 917. I wasn't that sort of brave a guy, but anyway.
It was very, very difficult to drive.
We discovered in practice that it was a bit leery. It was aerodynamically not completely on the ground.
But nevertheless, because of its huge speed differential, when we did finally retire, which was not after 6 hours, but 21 hours, we were leading by 50 miles.
I'd never driven anything like that car, so fast. It was in its initial form with a 4.5-litre engine. It was doing 235 down the straight. I mean, no speed had ever been achieved like that by any car ever at Le Mans. So we just had a massive advantage, and we could have stroked it and won, but we didn't.
A year later was another story, however, as development of short-tail bodywork had transformed the ill-mannered 917 into Porsche's ticket to victory at Le Mans.
It was a massive race. It was probably the biggest entry for Le Mans, I think, for big, powerful cars up to that point they'd ever seen. And everybody wanted to win it. So I said, okay, we'd like to finish Le Mans, so we'll have a standard short tail, and we'll have the 4.5, not the 4.9, and we'll go with that and see what happens. We ended up qualifying somewhere between 14 and 16, something like that. Before the race started, I thought, well, so I made the biggest mistake of my life because, you know, we haven't got a chance. I've got to rely on, let's say, 15, 16 other cars to have problems or fail before we got a chance of coming up the order. After 10 hours, we were in the lead. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's incredible to think of it even now. I remember 3 Ferrari 512s went off in one accident, and Derek Bell was involved with that. I think there'd been some bit of wet weather early on, and people flew off the road. Rodriguez's car, the engine cooling fan disappeared. I don't know why, but then the engine overheated, that was it. So incidents like that, and you know, 10 hours, as I say. We had to defend the lead from 10 hours on, which was not what I would wish, because you start imagining all sorts of things and got another 14 hours to go. And yeah, that was the story, which is a relatively incident-free race for us, but full of incident for everybody else. Porsche had been trying to win Le Mans for so long, and they'd had that huge disappointment the year before and others before that. And I think it was just huge relief, I think, to Stuttgart and everybody, really.
And Alan, those cars, the performance of those things in that era in particular was just stunning. And as Dickie Atwood alluded to in that piece, it took a very special driver to drive one of those.
Definitely, and I think the building of 25 of those cars was one of the most extraordinary feats of all time in history. And when Porsche won Le Mans for the first time, 1970 outright, Hans Hermann, in fact, did drive with Dickie Atwood. They were ecstatic, and it was so well deserved. They tried so hard. And again, in their day, they set a paradigm for how things were to be. And the 512s that, well, people like me drove, it was always fantastic to have a thing like a 512, 630 horsepower. They do about 220 or something down here. But the Porsches always had the edge. And Porsche have always stuck to that creed ever since. And the best thing about that car is you could go and buy one. Right. How lovely. I mean, Porsche's creed has always been, let's go race them, let's go prove them, and then we'll go and sell them, which is exactly what they did.
Well, and Porsche, as I understand it, it was a little bit of a loophole. They found that they could do that if they built the 25, and they did it. And it wasn't but, what, 2-3 years later that the ACO and LeMans said, way too fast, way too dangerous. And then they changed the formula. And when you change a formula to react to a particular car, that is truly amazing.
Greg, down in the 76 pick, Narat just brought this car into pit lane. Going to be just a standard stop here, just fuel and tires. These boys have been fighting back from early yesterday, so they're trying to get back in the hunt in GT2. Really just a standard stop here, so not much going on.
Yeah, they've been about 4 to 5 laps out of it, but still third in class, and just trying to hang in there and hope something happens with one or both of those cars up in front. You don't see that happen very often. But these guys have been very consistently in that third spot since this race has started. They've been right there, but yeah, it's got to be frustrating when you're just running. Everything's going very well, but the two cars in front of you are virtually identical to yours and very bulletproof.
Yeah, that's right. On the other hand, there is still 1/3 of this race to go, and anything can happen, and these guys just have to hang in there and keep hoping.
Well, as they continue to work on that, we were talking about F1 coming up. Some tremendous developments there. Ralf Schumacher had a crash. He's out. Ricardo Zonta is in. It was in the same spot Ralf crashed last year, and nowhere near as severe injury-wise. He just was a little shaken up, and they thought better to park him. But a brand new first ever pole for Toyota in the hands of Jarno Trulli. Huge story there. And I think one of the great stories there, although he's not racing in the race, on the Friday practice day when you have the third driver, the United States, Scott Speed, at one point was 9th in that group, so just phenomenal.
Yeah, a very good opportunity for him as well, because it's a catch-22, that Grand Prix racing. You need the experience, but if you don't do it, you can't get it. So at least got himself some good stick time there.
Well, they continue to work as we watch here, but we cut now. This is a courtesy, once again, of our French feed. That is the number 16, Pescarolo Judd, that sits in the second spot and throwing out, continuing to throw laps in the 335 to 38 to 340 range, depending upon traffic. Just amazing. We also want to show you what, at this stage, we are considering our Mobile One move of the race. And look at this. It was Tom Christensen avoiding the Jean-Marc Gounon-driven Audi from the Oreca program. Ran a little hot through one of the gravel traps and was fortunate coming out of the Ford chicane to just hang on to it. Christensen saw it coming and was able to dip the brake and not damage his run to perhaps a record of his own. Certainly his 6th straight win would be a record, but it would also break the record of Jackie Ickx with 6 wins total. He would have 7, and he continues to lead at this point comfortably over the Pescarolo with the number 2 Audi in the 3rd spot. In the LMP2 division, it is still the Belmondo Racing Courage Fords bookending the Lola for Ray Malek Racing in GT1, Aston Martin and Corvette in GT2, Porsche, and a Porsche that's a little bit further distance. Great battle there as well. Speed Channel's live coverage of the Michelin 24 Hours of Le Mans is brought to you by Michelin, a better way forward. By new Mobil 1 Extended Performance, the oil that's changing oil. And by Porsche. Porsche, there is no substitute. Welcome back, everybody. There is the number 16, second placed Pescarolo Judd in the pits in the hands of Jean-Christophe Bouillon. And Chris Neville, that car is continuing to throw down remarkably quick laps.
That's right, Greg. Jean-Christophe Bouillon staying behind the wheel. This is his 3rd stint, staying on the Michelins, too. Very surprised they didn't do a tire change there. This is the 3rd stint for those tires, so just fuel, and he's just been ripping some great laps during his first 2 stints, staying in the mid to high 30s, so they're just catching up more ground on the Audis.
Again, he currently, it was a little while ago in the middle of his second stint, set the fastest lap of the race thus far at a 3-minute 34.968 second lap. You've been seeing some right there. You can see a look. That is the number 8 Roll Center Nissan. It's a Dallara Nissan. Has a right rear tire that has gone down, and it went down very early in the lap. So he's just trying to nurse it all the way around the track. You see the marshals with the white flag letting oncoming traffic know a slow-moving vehicle is in their path. And we are watching now as the number 2, third place Audi from Champion ADT in the hands of Frank Biela making its way down pit lane. And apparently, Alan, the car seems to be running very well. They did a great fix on it. We would anticipate Biela would stay on board since this is only his first stint.
Yeah, no, he put in some very valuable laps there, and he has proven that the repair of the car went off very well indeed. The car's obviously handling nicely. It's just one of those things that motorsport throws up, Le Mans especially. Although I'd like to comment at this stage that I do think that poor old Aston Martin, the number 59 car, the Brabham car, to get penalised as badly as it did at the beginning of the race for leaping over the gravel trap when we watched, for instance, the French Audi coming out of a gravel trap, cutting right in front of somebody else. I mean, if anything deserved a penalty, I would have thought that did. But this race does also throw up strange anomaly in the way that certain teams and drivers are treated by the people who are running the race. I won't say any more than that. I used to experience that all the time. I mean, sometimes you can feel that they're a bit down on you because maybe your passport doesn't say that you're from the right country.
Ah, okay. Well, interesting there. Here's the number 17 entry. That is the team car to the number 16 car that sits in the second spot. And obviously, they are just trying to play catch-up. And Andrew Marriott, they sit in the 5th spot right now, so not a bad comeback as well.
No, absolutely. Well, I'm just at the back of the team at Yota Garage at the moment. What an incredible story this is. This little team has only 4 full-time employees. They coming to this circuit for the very first time, and here they are up in 6th place with the Zytek, who had just a little problem with the exhaust bracket, and that's it. The car has run absolutely faultlessly. They prepared the car actually in a farmyard, and well, it's an incredible, absolutely astounding story to me that this little team with very little money, run by a real estate agent, John Stack, who's actually driving the car as well alongside the Japanese Kurosawa and Sam Hinglet, can do such an outstanding job with such small resources.
Well, and with such potential, I mean, if that team had a little bit of budget, that car has unbelievable potential. Keep in mind that a similar car, that Zytek chassis, or it's a Reynard chassis essentially with the Zytek power plant, came to Mid-Ohio for the ALMS round against non-restricted Audis and the Dyson Lola AERs and put it on pole. So that car has tremendous potential. It's just a matter of budget, and boy, it'd be great to see that how that team get it, Andrew.
The big story with this was that the factory Zytek we've been talking about did not get an entry for this race. For some reason, although last year it was very fast, remember at one stage it was the fastest in the pre-test event, for some reason the French took exception to it and didn't give it an entry. But this private older car doing a great job in 6th place.
I think they've been very clever, these guys, you know, Andrew. They've obviously, as you said, not got any experience here at Le Mans particularly, but they've chosen great product, a really good chassis, reliable engine, good gearbox, careful preparation. They're not trying to race anybody too hard, they're just trying to stay out there, and that's giving them this great result. It's the only way an amateur can get a result down here at Le Mans.
I'll tell you, to this point, we have had some absolutely phenomenal action unfolding here in this race, and we anticipate it certainly continuing in the GT1 class. The battle between the Aston Martin and the Corvettes is still well afoot. In GT2, it's even closer between those two Porsches. It's settled a little bit in LMP2. But in the overall battle, right now, we have two things developing. We have the Pescarolo Judd absolutely wide open, just a joy to watch, throwing the car around as it sits there trying to pursue that lead Audi. We have Tom Christensen, part of the driving tandem in that lead Audi, with that margin backing off a little bit, being a little careful, being a little safe, but can't give up too much. Some very interesting things to watch indeed as we move into the final 8 hours or so of this fabulous event. We're showing you the top 3 in each of the classes. Once again, There's the indication of that battle in GT1. Great battle in GT2 unfolding as well. So this is going to be absolutely fabulous. We still have plenty of time left, a third of this event yet to run, and stranger things have happened. When we come back, you're going to be enjoying some coverage from Radio Le Mans. Always insightful and always interesting. For Alan DeCadney, for Chris Neville and Andrew Marriott down in pit lane, I'm Greg Creamer. We'll see you back here in a little while.
Good morning from Le Mans. This is John Hindhaugh and the rest of the Autosport Radio Le Mans team. Welcome to Speed's overnight coverage. The team taking a hard-earned rest now for a few hours, and that means, in a very scary way, that they've just given us their TV channel for a few hours. Well, we can tell you if you are just joining us here on Speed Channel or around the world at autosport.com, around the circuit on 91.2 FM, is that Tom Christensen continues to lead the 73rd annual running of the 24-hour race at Le Mans. He's lapping in around about the early 40s, 42, 43. That's still though some 5 seconds or so slower than Jean-Christophe Bouillon in the chasing Pescarolo. Now this has become, in the last hour or so, the real battle at the front of the field, and the reason for that is that Alan McNish's car that was second, Alan unfortunately suffered a tyre delamination just over an hour ago, and that car went off. It cost him 3 laps, and in fact more than 3 laps. It cost him about 4 laps and dropped him down into 3rd place. Frank Bieler, back in that car, has been unable to replicate McNish's pace from in the middle of the night. Having said that, that could be because the temperatures are rising here at Le Mans. It's been an absolutely scorching weekend, both on and off the track, and at just after 8 o'clock in the morning here in France, it's already almost 31 degrees. In the classes, the GT1, which is an awful lot, by the way, if you want to translate that into Fahrenheit. The GT1 battle has been enthralling during the night, and it seems as though the first 4 are almost tied together with rather long bungee cords. Now, just a few moments ago, you just saw it there on the screen, that Tom Christensen has just made a mistake there and has gone off the circuit. Now he's back on and travelling quite well. Just caught sight of that on one of the big screens here that's on the exit of the pit lane. Now let's see what happens. Now this is your race leader, Tom Christensen, with, well, normally such a safe pair of hands and feet, and that happened round about halfway around the lap. He's now into the Indianapolis and now Arnage complex. Well, he seems to think the car's all right. He's still riding the right-hand curb there. Momentary lapse of concentration or another problem.
I would suggest, John, that it is because he's doing 4 stints on this set of tyres. He's gone out, he's perfectly all right, he's perfectly strong, but I suspect that the tyres are getting tired.
Yes, and remember, Alan McNish had that delamination on his in-lap. He was absolutely gutted by it. White flag there because there's another roll second to Lara going slowly. That was the voice of Paul Truswell, who has been here since well before the race started at 4 o'clock French time yesterday afternoon, and will remain here. How he manages to put all of his bodily functions on hold, I've never quite worked out. It's some kind of mind over matter. He doesn't mind, therefore it doesn't matter. The other voice that you will hear in this broadcast is Charles Dressing, who is watching, as we are, Tom Christensen come into the pit lane. Now that is a little bit early, but as Paul said, it might well be that he's felt something in those tyres. That end of the pit lane belongs to Henry Hope Frost of the Radio Le Mans Deutsche Bank X-Markets pit lane team. Henry, already down there at ADD Champion Audi.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, John. The number 3 car is halfway down pit lane, and it peels right at the last moment. And Tom Christensen brings the car to a stop. Bang! Right on cue. The champion guys descend on the car in a fury of activity. Tom Christensen is out. JJ Leto is in. Tom hurls the extra seat padding that he needs to drive this car across the pit road and stands in the what is effectively the extra part of the cockpit on these sports prototypes to help JJ strap into the car while they fill the car up with fuel. Mechanics checking tyre temperatures. The fuel seems to take an age to go in. The car is jacked up. Off come the old boots and on go the new ones. Tom steps out of the car. I'm going to go to the back of the garage and grab this man as soon as I can. The tyres are on. Slick pickwork as usual from Champion ADT Racing. It's off its jacks. The starter button is pushed, and JJ's away again.
And all that John cost, that little bubble off the road, I make it out cost him no more than about 6 seconds. Amazing.
Well, that means he's lost 10 or 11 seconds, perhaps even a little more, to the pursuing Pescarolo before anything else happens. And it has been a race where it seems that there's something happening all the time. Let me quickly bring everybody up to date with the GT1 category. It is the Aston Martin of Pedro Lamy who leads by just over 2 minutes 40 seconds from the chasing Corvette C6R, the 64 car in second place. Its team car a further couple of laps behind in third place in class, and he's just 90 seconds or so ahead of David Brabham in the 59 car. Remember, the 59 car was the car that took all the penalties earlier on. We'll talk about the other classes in a moment. Let's introduce the fifth voice on the Radio Le Mans team to our Speed TV listeners, and this is Graham Tyler, who's at the pit-in end of the pits. Good morning, Graham.
Good morning, John. Good morning, all. I'm almost halfway down pit lane at the moment, so I've come to visit Certec. Certec running two cars here. One is 550 Maranello, which is number 61. That's been in for a routine stop, fuel only. Christophe Bouchou staying at the wheel. But the pit I've now come to is the one next door, which is the 92 car. Was in the hands of Rob Wilson. This is a 360 Modena. The name Rob Wilson will be familiar to our American audience. Spent many years racing over there as well as in Europe. But Rob originally from New Zealand, and you are the experienced hand in this car.
Yeah, well, that's what you get for being the oldest. You get that job. But yeah, it's quite useful because then, you want to be fast, but you've got to be careful. And when there's two people in the car who've never been to Le Mans, sometimes it helps if there's someone that's been there before.
And Rob's referring to two co-drivers, Stefan Eriksson and Joe Macari, as you say, both Le Mans virgins. A lot of your knowledge to be imparted to them then.
Yeah, and they've been, thus far, excellent. It's a lot to take in. The actual driving of the car around really doesn't want to use all of your brain. You've got to be looking around for traffic and various things. But for that part, they've done extremely well. They've been very, very professional.
Thank you, Rob. Good to talk to you. Let you have a drink and cool down while we've got a Corvette heading up pit lane, John.
And it's the 63 car in third position at the moment. Hits its mark spot on right in front of us. The Corvette garage bathed in yellow light. Millennium yellow light, maybe. I can see the point of that, even in the shadow. And I'm looking back towards the sunshine, but even in the shadow of the stand, that car is bathed in that bright orange light as those overheads have been on since, well, Wednesday night. In fact, I'm not sure who's playing the electric bill, but obviously GM CompuWare have not done things by halves this year. The car still looks immaculate as it refires. That was just a splash of fuel and straight out of the pit lane. Let's stay in the production-based categories now as we try to catch up. And Roger Green in Las Vegas, Nevada, says very interested in the White Lightning Porsche GT3 RSR, trying to win their third consecutive Le Mans. Graham Tyler, what can you tell me about the battle with the Alec Job machine?
Well, it's nip and tuck all the way. The 90 car is in, having fuel done now. Pat Long at the wheel, desperate to get the attention of the crew, to get some fresh drink into him and some tissue to wipe around the cockpit, because it's really hot work in there. As the fuel goes in, they can't do anything other than help the driver. Now that that's finished, the fresh Michelins are going on in a hurry. This really is urgent stuff, because the race between this car and the Alex Joe Bam car, number 71, has been frenetic throughout. It's been a wonderful race to watch, and the balance of power could just tip either way. This is Pat Long leaving us.
In the meantime, as has been the metronomic accuracy of the GM CompuWare Corvettes, the 63 car comes in, and a few moments later the 64 car comes in with full service, I think, for this car. Tyres have been brought out. No, yes, they're out. There we are. We can see that the new set of Michelins go on, and just look at the economy of movement with these guys in the pit lane, who are so well drilled even after so much time. 10 past 8 in the morning here, no real rest for these guys. They're not working shift works as we do. Out it goes as in again with the GT1 battle. This is Pedro Lamy bringing in the Aston Martin, easily identified by the bright orange, or the lipstick mouth as I like to see it. The 58 car in, as tradition dictates, Charles Dressing, Feltham Green.
Feltham Green, and as tradition dictates, Aston, when they won Le Mans in '59, had 3 cars here. One of them they sent out plain, and the other ones they had with yellow and red trim on them. And George Howard Chappelle, who is a real historian, has brought his cars here as a sort of an emotional mirror to those great DBR1s of David Brown.
Yeah, these cars have run very well indeed, and it's been an impressive debut at Le Mans for the team. Remember, the cars first out in race action at Sebring in March for the opening round of the 2005 American Le Mans Series, and then really cleaned up at Silverstone in the FIA GTs. And the only problem now was a slight propensity to eat rear tyres, which caused a change.
If you had that much torque, you'd eat rear tires.
Sage words, Mr. Jessing. I'm not sure whether we can run Aston Martins on Riette, but if we could, they'd eat that as well. The local delicacy has been sampled by the Radio Le Mans team, some more than others. I look to my left and Mr. Charles Dressing.
Thanks a lot.
Aston Martin emerges from underneath the Dunlop Bridge. Is there any more evocative sight than that at just after 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning in the middle of June? Paul Truswell has been crunching numbers overnight, and we're still watching this battle. 3:36 for Bouillon at the head of the field last time around. 4:59 for JJ Leto, but that was an outlap, of course. Pit stops. When are we expecting to see the next? Well, that was a bit out of strategy, wasn't it, for Tom Christensen? Came in a bit early, well, so he only did a shorter stint there.
Well, no, it wasn't actually out of stint. What it was a slightly longer stint. So, but it was a triple rather than a quadruple. So he did 3 stints in the car, not 4. But it was a slightly longer stint. But the important thing was that the tyres had done 3 stints themselves. So the next car to come in is going to be Jean-Christophe Bouillon. He'll be coming in probably around lap 251 on the chart. He's currently on lap 245. So we've got quite a few laps just to see the kind of times that Bouillon can put in. Now, if he carries on in the mid 336s, if he can drop into the 335s, and we expect Leto to be doing 41s, 42s, maybe he'll drop into the 40s, but that's the kind of pace we need to be getting, a 4-5 second gap in order for Jean-Christophe Bouillon to be able to close the gap to JJ Leto. He's 2.5 laps behind, and it's a long lap here. Yeah, 8 miles round the lap, and to close that kind of distance up, you're going to need all of the 7 hours that remain of the race, John.
And Nick Manassian there getting a little racy out on the circuit. He's getting a bit upset, isn't he? Flashing the headlights, trying to get by. The ACO changes in rules this year have really equalised the performance out of not only the prototype cars, but brought particularly the Audi R8 into the realms of the production-based cars. The speed trap speeds that we've seen recorded over the last few days leaves the Audi at a massive disadvantage to, say, the Pescarolos. And Alan McNish telling us over lunch on Thursday in the Champion Audi Hospitality that he was having problems staying with a GT1 Ferrari, never mind with the Astons or the Corvettes. And we've seen that consistently, that the prototype cars, even the lighter weight prototypes, which we expected to have a big advantage under the brakes, have struggled somewhat to dispose of those pesky GT1 cars. In fact, some of the GT2 cars are pretty quick down the tubes as well, Charles.
Well, I talked to Marino Franchitti about that, and he said that the Audis have been choked off so much, and most of the prototypes are practically breathing through a pitot tube, that the only place to really overtake is in the last 150 meters of braking. So you've really got to suck it up, take a deep breath, and go for it. It's no wonder we had so many flat tires, simply because we're getting that sharp gravel out there, and it's all because you have to take the chance in a chicane or at the end of the straight.
JJ Leto, who has, of course, a fantastic career here at Le Mans, and would be many people's contemporary for legendary status for his drive in the rain in the McLaren. in 1995.
Also on Michelin tires. That was the amazing thing about it. That's where the Joker comes from. That's a little known secret over at Michelin. They have tires that they make up that they want to try something, and it's what they do at the last yawning moment when they're making tires. And they'll make up a Joker tire and slide it in on you when you need it.
Let's go back down to the pit lane where Le Mans traditionally is won and lost. Graham Tyler has more.
Thank you, John.
News from the pit lane with Deutsche Bank X Markets. A passion to perform.
Thank you, John. We've got the number 36 Paul Belmondo car in. This is the third place car in LMP2. They also have the leader in class as well, so they're doing a good job here, the Paul Belmondo team. They've just taken the car into the garage, but now brought it back out. Spoke to Claude-Yves Gosselin, who was in the car. He's now handed over to Karim O'Jay. The reason they took the car in was simply to have more hands on board to do the job they needed, which was to clear all the ducting of the tyre pickup debris. It was beginning to affect the airflow into the radiators and causing the car to overheat. As I turn my back, I find that right behind we've got another LMP2 car coming in. This is the Dutch Courage, number 35, the radiator factory car, and Gavin Pickering, a British driver, is going to take that one over. And they've had their problems this week, this car, currently running 5th in class, and it's Val Hillebrand who's got the car out. The third driver in that car was the one who had the big problem on Wednesday night qualifying. Frank Harner put the car hard into the wall and pretty much destroyed the tub. Thankfully, the Courage factory is here on the premises at Le Mans, within the confines of the circuit, and they were able to take the tub over there and get it extensively repaired in order to get back into the race for the weekend.
Straight down to Henry Hope Frost, who has the man of the hour, Tom Christensen.
Yes, indeed, the race leader is with me. Tom Christensen, a small moment for you at the end of that last stint. Can you just tell us what happened?
Yeah, I mean, anyway, it was a down change to the second chicane, and I called a gear too early, my mistake, and I just ran 3 inches wide going in, and then I just had to correct it, and my foot slipped on when you run over the lorry holes. My foot slipped a little bit on the brake, and then I was a little bit offline, and obviously it's completely full of gravel. So instead of spinning, I just went into the grass and carried on, as I knew I was coming in anyway. It was my in-lap for tires and full service, and then they cleaned the radiators. But yeah, it shouldn't happen. But I was trying to pace myself, and that's sometimes the things when you have a big basket and you can only lose it.
This is such a hard race that even a 6-time winner can lose concentration.
Yes, but not so much.
Everything else okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you, Tom. The race leader there being typically honest about his small error down at the Mulsanne chicane.
And it's one of those things that small errors normally make big consequences here at Le Mans. Tom Christensen may well think he's had his slice of luck for this 24-hour race. Remember, when he has finished this race, he has won it. There's been a couple of times when he has entered and not won, and in those cases he hasn't finished. And it's a quite remarkable record for Tom Christensen, and there's a lot of expectation on his shoulders, as there was at the start of the race on the 2 Pescarolos, which of course started at the front of the grid. And Bouillon now is only about 7 minutes behind the number 3 car at the moment, driven by JJ Leto. And that's how things stand, coming up on 20 minutes past 8 in the morning here in France. We're going to leave the action for just a very short period of time. You're listening to Radio Le Mans on 91.2 FM around the world, on the web at autosport.com and on Sky Digital Channel 907. If you'd like to get in touch with us here in the studio, rlm@haynet.com, rlm@haynet.com, and of course live across the US on Speed TV. Don't go too far away, we'll have more action from the 2005 Radio Le Mans. Well, just on 8:30, just a little after 8:30 in the morning, as into the pit comes the 17 car of Eric Ellery, and he will bring that car to a stop in 5th position. Let's take a look at the top 5. JJ Leto leads for ADT champion Audi. He's got a 3-lap cushion over Jean-Christophe Bouillon in the 16 Pescarolo, but he's losing time to him. Is it going to be enough time as far as the French team's concerned? Well, only the next 7.5 hours or thereabouts will tell. 3:39.8 last time around for Bouillon, 3:42.4 for JJ Leto. Frank Biela in 3rd place continues to lap respectably in the mid 3:44s after that tyre delamination this morning, seemingly costing that car any chance of a crack at its teammate and the top step of the podium. It's Cunon in 4th position after a huge sideways moment a few moments away, coming out of Arnage in the Orica PlayStation Audi. In GT1, what a night it's been as the cars have basically kept each other well in sight. Peter Cox is now at the wheel of the lead Aston Martin, 7th position overall on 241 laps, ahead of the 64 Corvette C6R. Those cars lapping within tenths of each other every time around. Max Papis is in the 2nd GM CompuAir Corvette in 3rd place, and Darren Turner is installed yet again into the 59 Aston Martin. Remember, it was Darren Turner who picked up the 2 stop-go penalties. 2nd place car coming into the pits while we're in the middle of our rundown. As far as the GT2 positions are concerned, Mike Rockefeller leads the class in the number 71 Porsche, that the Alex Job racing machine. In 2nd place in GT2 is Patrick Long in the White Lightning racing car. 3rd position in GT2, Lonnie Pechnik is now at the wheel of the Flying Lizards Motorsport Porsche. 1, 2, 3 for the Porsches then in GT2. LM2, I am delighted to say, is being led by the MG Lola of RML. Tommy Erdos just taking the lead after the problems with the Belmondo Courage. Claude Gosselin still in the car, but that car still stationary in the pit lane in 2nd place. In 3rd position and gaining on its teammate is the 37 Belmondo racing car. That is Belmondo, Andre and Sutherland's machine. And I'm sorry, yes it is Dave Andre at the moment in Didier Andre at the moment in that car, and he is catching up the 2nd place machine, and if that doesn't get out the pit soon, that is going to be a change of position as well. So a costly problem for the lead Belmondo car. And I just want to say it again, MG and Lola lead LMP2 for RML. I feel very, very good about that. And that's the hourly update. It's just coming on to 20 minutes to 9 o'clock here in France.
Audi, Vorsprung durch Technik.
Glow by glow, minute by minute. Full coverage and all the news with a great mix of classic music tracks, complete listening entertainment and information. There is no other. Radio Le Mans, 91.2 FM.
Gavin Lawrence says, I can't believe I'm sitting on my sofa in Vancouver watching Speed Channel and hearing your voices. Very surreal. Great to hear you boys again. Keep up the good work. Gavin Lawrence, a very, very good photographer from the UK. Now I think doing NASCAR and IRL out in America. Nice to hear from you this morning. And the sun continues to rise, and I'm looking at the temperature now. It's 33.6 degrees C at the moment. So let's go down into the pit lane. It's no surprise that the driver changes are coming a little quicker now as the temperature rises. Let's get abreast of what's going on. Oh, before we go down to Graham Tyler, once again we said we can barely do anything without something happening on the track, and yet again we've got the left rear puncture, this time for one of the GT1 Ferraris. I think that's the 575.
No, it's the number 50 Labour competition. Ferrari.
Yes, it is. The Labour competition. We'll pick up that story when we come back on 91.2 FM.